Sometimes holiday decor can be brought from things that you're wearing around the house. And in this holiday's recording, I'll deliver how to bring the items you normally wear as decorations during the holiday season, keeping it simple, glitzy, and down to earth. Meantime, breaking news on your second stimulus check as Chuck Schumer releases his memo. Everyone has a memo. I have a memo. You have a memo. Sue Lauren has a memo. And in this new memo, I'll be going over it. And is there a stimulus check? Well, you got to check out the memo. This and more in this incredible live recording today, midday of holidays LALATE. Thank you for joining me, and this is another exceptional live recording of Holidays LA, our midday recording, in which I give about 10 minutes of updates about your second stimulus check, and there's big updates. There is breaking details about your second stimulus check and second stimulus package minutes ago. It's not what you would think, as dirty fool food stealer just says doesn't sound good. Someone said last night that Nancy Pelosi said that the Democrats won't approve anything unless there's a stimulus check. Well, I didn't believe that was true when I heard it, and I'll be telling you a second whether it's true or not. Spoiler, it's not true. Then I'll be getting to how to get money right now, not 5 days from now, not 5 weeks from now, and not 5 months from now. Money right now. I know you're going to ask questions about grants, so I'm going to be getting you the grants. LALATE's in the house. Hello, Lori. There's Cindy as well. I'll be answering your questions about grants later around the 10-minute mark. And then at about the 12-minute mark, we'll get into some holiday decor, how to do things cheap, for free, without spending a penny during the holiday season, and have it fun and lighthearted. This is our midday recording that's always lighthearted, easy breezy. And thank you for the nearly 300 people that are in the room live right now. It's about 12:15 on the West Coast, so thank you as well. Breaking news minutes ago is this. It's Chuck Schumer's proposal, memo. Everyone has a memo. It's not a bill. It's not anything other than that. Let me tell you how we got to Chuck Schumer's memo and where the current status is. I detailed it on Mornings LA, which is in the pinned comment here and in the pinned comment over to there. It's important to understand that there's been a lot of incorrect information everywhere, and it's expected to be incorrect because it is complicated. I'm going to make it very, very simple for you. So here is where we are. The federal government has to do a spending bill, and that spending bill has a deadline of December 11th. There's no way to avoid that deadline. It's a hard, fast deadline. You can't get around this one. The bill is done, the spending bill is done by a bill, meaning it has to be approved by the Senate, has to be approved by the House, and has to be signed by the President. If all those three things don't occur, it doesn't become a law. And the federal government shuts down, literally shuts down. Everything shuts down. So they do this about every 3 months. The last time they did it, Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi negotiated it, but Mitch McConnell did have a say in it, and the cows got stimulus in it. Hence the birth of sirloin and the Cowsino. The cows literally got stimulus in the last bill. This bill is called CR, for continuing resolution. So when I say CR, I'm referring to this bill. It is not a stimulus bill. It is not expected to be a stimulus bill. It is just for the federal spending, but they add a little bit of stimulus in there, just a little bit about stimulus in there, to the extent that they can. It's not expected to solve everything. The way you solve everything is another bill a few weeks later in January. So it was not expected to have $2,400 for SSI and SSDI and Social Security Railroad benefits in there. It was not expected to have $10,000, $20,000 of FPUC in there. It was not expected to have, unemployment benefits to the end of next year in there. It was not expected to have anything more than about a month to 2 months of stimulus. So yesterday in the morning, 3 bills were introduced. All 3 bills are never going to see light of day. But Steve Mnuchin has now told news minutes ago that the 3 bills will be presented to the president to look at. And the president will also look at any offer that the Democrats offer. Basically, I'll take a look at it and thank you so much. No. Yesterday, Mitch McConnell went to meet with the president and asked the president, what do you want in it? And the president had not made a decision. So that was then. President, as of today, has still not made a decision. Mitch McConnell literally went to the White House to ask the president, which was a big deal. And when he went to the president did not make a determination yet. So Mitch went back and wrote something, as Mitch always does. And he wrote something. And I'll go over a little bit about what he wrote. I've covered it before, so this is not particularly new news, but I'll go over what Mitch wrote in a second. It did not have a stimulus check in there. And it's basically not a correct, it's not correct. It needs to be fixed. So that was then presented to other senators as a memo to consider things and to talk about it. So we ended yesterday and we ended this morning with a memo for people to talk about it. And we were talking about it. What were you saying about Mitch's bill? Drop in the comments right now on screen and let me hear if you watched morning's LALATE. Tell me what you thought about Mitch's memo. We're not calling it a bill, it's a memo. Tell me what you thought of Mitch's memo if you watched morning's LALATE so far. It's like a bad dream. It's a joke, says Bruce. It needs checks, says Stephanie. Shut it down, says Jennifer. Memo sucks, says Steve. It's a joke, says Stacy. It's a bad bill, says Ann. Mitch is a joke, says Dirty. Cindy, cheap chicken scratch. Lisa, cheap. It's horrible, says another person. It's a lot of talking. Jolie, I do watch you, LA. Well, thank you. They threw people under the bus, says David. The fish got the money, says Cindy. Nathan, absolute nonsense. Larry, we need checks. Junk, says John. They don't care about us, Linda. CB, just a grocery list. Can the government send stimulus checks? Where's the stimulus checks, says Soledad. No checks for us, no checks for them, said Mimi. Shut the government down, said another person. Groundhog's Day again. It's a negotiating point only. It's not serious. It's toilet paper, says X-Mon. It's too low, says Terry. Sick and twisted, said another person. Starkiss getting it. Starkiss getting it. Yes, Nemo got his stimulus. Ridiculous, says Monica. Yes, so this is Mitch's memo. And Mitch's memo is, as one person, a starting point, but it really needs to start somewhere else. It's just starting in the wrong place. It has no stimulus checks. It has no eviction moratorium. It has no mortgage forbearance. The three things you absolutely must have. I mean, there's just no question about it. You have to have a stimulus check. You have to have an eviction moratorium, and you have to have a mortgage forbearance. Those three things are not in there. What is in there is 1 month of UI. That's really good. And 1 month of PUA. That's really good. There's stuff that does not belong in here, like the cows getting stimulus. Nemo, Finding Nemo, and Shamu all got stimulus. Ugh. And then he wants to have you deduct your business lunches for all of this year. That does not need to be in here. I understand he wants to get it in this bill because he can't do it next year because then you can't use it, for 2019. But there's stuff that doesn't need to be in here, and there's too much PPP. It's just fortunes and fortunes of PPP. But it's a good point. It's a starting point. So we started we ended last night with this, which was a starting point. And we could get the message out very clear. Put a stimulus check in it, Mitch, and get it done. Put a stimulus check in this, Mitch, and get it done. And this morning you saw me on Twitter tagging Mitch McConnell's press secretary and chief of staff, press secretary and communications director, and saying, please put a stimulus check in this. And then I asked you, should we have a hashtag shutdown for stimulus? And apparently you all agreed. Hashtag shutdown for stimulus, or stimulus for shutdown. I'm not quite sure which grammatically works, but that started to kick in. So then came Chuck Schumer. Now, this is Chuck's memo, and this was released minutes ago. Now, Chuck, again, has a memo. Last night, people were saying Nancy had a bill. She didn't have a bill. Then they said the Democrats had a bill. They didn't have a bill. Finally, Chuck Schumer introduced this memo. And last night people said Nancy will not agree to anything Mitch has because it doesn't have a stimulus check in it. She's demanding a stimulus check. I said, oh, really? Where did you hear that? At the casino? I did not hear that. So here's Chuck's bill, Chuck's memo. Yes. Let me ask everyone in the room, which is now 744 people. What do you think, before I tell you, what do you think is not in Chuck's memo? Give me an answer. And you can give me more than one thing that you think is missing. What do you think is not in Chuck's memo? Check, says Roy. Stimulus, says Stacy. Check, says Jennifer. Stimulus check, says Stefan. Hazard pay, says Cindy. Stimulus, says Faith. Janet, stimulus checks. Stimulus checks. Stimulus and UI. Check, says Jolie. Checks, says Monica. State bailouts. No, I said not in, not in the bill. Checks. Enhanced unemployment, says Theo. Checks, no UI. Enhanced unemployment, says Theo. Anything to help us. That's a nice, good catch-all. I love it. No haircut. Yes, no haircuts are in the stimulus package. No check, says Eugene. No check, says Eugene. Everything that America needs to survive on. Maggie, I love that, Maggie. Eviction, Stacy. Stacy has my heart. Veron, nothing to do anything that we need. Nothing we want or need, says Miss Ashley. No cows. Yeah, there is no cows in there. Nothing for haircuts and Starkist, says John. Everyone has a joke in here. So to answer your question, all of the above. It says literally all of the above. There is no checks. There is no eviction moratorium. There is no mortgage forbearance. The three most important things, checks, eviction moratorium, and mortgage forbearance, are not in here. So apparently we should all be on the street and homeless, but we should be able to go to Broadway. That's basically the focus of this memo. Yesterday, the three bills that those moderates introduced had no checks in them either, had no eviction moratoriums in there, and no mortgage forbearance. I don't know what's going on with these people. Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins, I get the two confused, said yesterday Mitch McConnell's bill is just a waste of time because the same bill he did earlier this year. But her bill was a waste of time because it had no stimulus check in there either, or no eviction moratorium. So when we look at Chuck Schumer's memo, I got to say, when we're looking at ridiculousness, there is Mitch McConnell's ridiculous. And then there's Chuck Schumer's ridiculousness. I got to tell you, Chuck Schumer's ridiculousness is like Mitch McConnell's ridiculousness on 20 shots of Red Bull. It's just, after a 6-pack of Fireball shots. Chuck Schumer's memo is so wacko. It's literally crazy. Now, understand, this is a short-term emergency bill. And so what does Chuck Schumer give you? Chuck Schumer wants to give you he wants to give you FPUC. He wants to give you he wants to give you PUA to 2022. 2 more years. He wants to give you PUA for 2 more years. It's not, it's not an emergency bill. He doesn't want to give it to you for 2 months. He wants to give you for 2 more years. So a year and a half past the vaccine being dispersed, he wants to still have everyone still on unemployment to 2022. He almost went to 2023, but he just thought that was a little too much. Then he wants to have PEUC, the extension of UI. He wants that to go for basically 2 more years. 2 more years. What are we doing on an emergency bill for something for 2 years? Then if that's not even more crazy. Then this is my most favorite thing. What do you think he said about FPUC? Let me ask you what now I want to give me the craziest answers you can give me for what you think Chuck Schumer did for FPUC. Give me a crazy answer, and I'm going to see if I can top you on crazy. What do you think is the craziest? Teresa says $100. Lifetime FPUC. I like that. MBA says a year, $3,000. $1,000 a week for the next 3 years. Mike, I love Mike. You almost won, Mike. $900 a week. Drew says that. 5 years. Leo got it. $1,000 a week. I love. That's basically what Chuck Schumer did. He wants to give you $600 a week to 2022. He wants to give you $600 a week, literally to 3 years past the pandemic. God bless him, but I just know where he's getting. Yes, he wants to give you $600 a week to 2022. Someone nearly guessed exactly correct. I'm actually getting hot because I just think this is just insane. Let me recap. Chuck, the White House would not give $600 a week for 3 months. So Chuck Schumer this time around is asking $600 for 3 years. What is he smoking? Says Kathy. It's just crazy. Now this is an emergency bill, and so the news report said Chuck and Mitchell are a little bit far apart. far apart. It's sort of like comparing the Milky Way with where Star Trek now travels. It's just these two things are just so ridiculously far apart. It's nowhere near rationality. So there's a lot of other stuff in there. But the good thing is the good thing. The one small good thing in Chuck's bill is that there's nothing that doesn't need to be in there. It's just what is in there. It's just sort of missing. He has some tax deductions and some backlog on claims, but basically, he has no hazard pay. Someone asked. He has no SSI or SSDI. He has no eviction moratorium, no mortgage forbearance. He has nothing for the sharks, nothing for the fish, nothing for the cows. He does have the FPUC, $600 a week for 3 more years, which is just insane. So, with that, let me hear your response. Do you think the government's going to shut down on December 11th? Yes or no? Is the government going to shut down on December 11th? Yes or no? Let me see your answer. We know what yesterday's answer was. Yes, says Jennifer. No, says Alvarado. Yes. Yes, says Ron. Yes, says Nick and Kathleen. John, Faye says yes. Melvin says no. Kevin says yes. Woody says yes. Steve says no. Teresa says no. Zeus says yes. And Lisa says yes. Yes, no, yes. Yes and no, no, yes, yes. So it's interesting. Yesterday we had 100% yeses, but now today we have about maybe about 10% no's. So we have about 90 yeses, 10% no's. So really quite interesting. I would love to ask the viewers why they gave the no answer, but it's sort of hard in a Q&A. So there you go. As you sit here today, what the Purple Power needs to do is get the message out very loud and clear. The two crazy. Oh, I forgot to tell you what Nancy is doing. So Nancy is trying to avoid everyone and just negotiate with Steve Mnuchin. So we now know that she did call up Steve Mnuchin and say, "I want to negotiate with you on the CR," and just sort of avoid everyone. And Steve Mnuchin shot it down. He's like, "Well, I see the proposals and I'll take a look at them. And thank you for calling." So Nancy Pelosi tried to throw Chuck Schumer under the bus by doing her own negotiations. She tried to avoid talking to Joe, and she tried to avoid Mitch, of course. So no hope for that. As you sit here today, the most important thing you need to do is really be on social media and tag McConnell, his communications director, and his press secretary, because if you look at Mitch's item, the stimulus, if he slid stimulus check into Mitch's item, we would really almost be half I was about to curse, half decent of an emergency 30-day bill, because hazard pay can't be in this. FPUC cannot be in this because it's too robust and it needs to be retroactive. Oh, by the way, Chuck doesn't have FPUC retroactive, by the way. I forgot to include that. So the fact that the fact that we all know they're going to mess up the retroactiveness of FPUC is that you really don't want FPUC in this because they're going to mess it up. So the only real things that Mitch really needs to get in his bill is a check, eviction moratorium, and mortgage forbearance, and done. And I think that is a very simple, clear message, and I think then we would be very on point. You would also get, those 4 weeks of unemployment benefits and 4 weeks of PUA. Now, if they don't want to do that, then they shut down the government. That's all attractive. Looks like we're not going to check until February 2021. Well, Stefan has a good point, which is, as we sit here today, we have 3 groups, and not one of these groups put a stimulus check in any of their bills or their proposals or their memos, which I told you before. Nancy Pelosi, the last negotiations with Steve Mnuchin, she kept on reducing the stimulus check to as little as $500. So suddenly the stimulus check has a stigma to it. Why is everyone adverse to a stimulus check all of a sudden? Shut it down, says Ann. Shut it down for stimulus. Shut it down for stimulus. Hashtag. Mitch wouldn't get a check either. Right? Correct. If they shut down the federal government, they won't get a check. They don't get a check. We don't get a check, they don't get a check. And I asked that on Mornings LLA, and viewers now agree the same thing. Richard White, shut it down. Viewers are now saying, if you don't want to give us a check, we're going to tell the senators in the Senate to vote against it and shut it down. You keep on not giving us a stimulus check, shut it down. So I think we may have to go in a little bit harder now and say shut it down for regional rats. I don't know if I can say that. Shut it down and tell them how it feels. Said someone just now. Bobby V shut it down. Take their checks until they give us our checks. Shut it down, says Cindy. 2020. Like I said, they don't need a check if we don't get a check. Take what is available now until Biden takes over. They might put you in a lower end. Shut it down, says Brenda. Shut it down, says Lakeisha. Leora. Will PUA put any money in anyone's pockets? Yeah, they want to give 4 weeks of PUA. Unfortunately, they may miss a. Shut it down. They want now it's moving really fast. Sirloin won't be happy. Sirloin has a Cadillac. He's fine. He has the Cadillac. Fire Pelosi. This is not stimulus at all. Well, it's not expected to be stimulus, but it's expected to do something. And the things that are expiring need to get in there. The eviction moratorium, the mortgage forbearance, the stimulus check. And we don't need to have bailouts of the fish and cow industry in a CR. We just don't need it. And we do need student loan repayment moratorium on that. I forgot to mention that. So, are we getting money before Christmas for Social Security recipients? The SSI item, the $2,400 for SSI and SSDI, that needs a separate bill, and no one has written it yet. So there comes the problem with that issue as well. Thank you, Brenda, for the nice comments. Any idea how much PUA will be? You're referring to FPUC, not PUA. PUA is dependent upon your income of 2019. FPUC, Mitch didn't give FPUC, and Chuck is giving an FPUC that no one's going to agree to, nor ever will agree to. LA for president. Well, thank you. That's a hard no, says Pat. They all need to be fired. Let me go to some holiday decor for just 2 minutes, and then after I do some holiday decor, I'll go over some grant money because I want to get you money right now. This stuff is just, this is a waste of another 6 hours of everyone's time. And ultimately, I'll be updating you on Afternoon Check as new developments come in. But, again, another half day is wasted with these people. I want to get you money. I could have gotten you $1,000 by now. It's like silly. So let me do some fun holiday decor for like 2 minutes so we get that bad taste out of our mouth. People don't realize that using beads or jewelry or basic little things you have around the house is a great way to dress up some decor. We see the holiday wreath here, and imagine if I just added a very simple bead. Now this is this is like a basic Mardi Gras bead, and imagine if I added a basic bead in the wreath. Look how that suddenly popped. That bead comes in a 20 pack for $1 or something. And if you go monochromatic, gold or silver, imagine how different it really just popped by adding the beads to it. Now, here's another bead. So I had an extra one. And so let's see what happens when we add just a second one over here. So now you see it's not lined up. Now you see the effect because it's really giving a pop. So what I'm suggesting is that if you have extra, things around the house that are either tie bands that you maybe tie your vegetables in, or even, these are rosary beads. These are, $2, $3 rosary beads from LA. They're all plastic. This is all fake. This is all just basically plastic vinyl. You can just throw them on greenery inside your house to create a decor. So let's just add a rosary bead here in a corner to the wreath, and let's see what happens. And let's hope I don't drop anything while I'm doing it. So here you see the impact of just adding a rosary bead to the tree. And if you added some more, here's the impact. What you generally want to do is have something that has a little bit of shine to it. And you see, I chose the one that had the gray shine. I'm going the wrong way. The gray shine, and then the gold. These are a little bit more matte. This is black and shine, but the impact of black for decor is a little bit harsh. Here's gold, but here it's matte. And so you don't want to do something that's too matte because it won't get any much reflection in the light. See how you can't really see it? Here's an example of something that does work. It's smaller. This is a bracelet. And so if you put this little small thing in there, you can see the impact of it. So that's how using just novelty jewelry, as someone said, I forgot that word novelty jewelry. It really gives something very basic and bling bling bling, as someone said, very very simple to create an impact. Purple beads, yeah. Oh, that it was a purple bead. Yeah, sometimes people have a dispute whether this is blue or purple. Let's ask everyone else. Is this blue or is this purple? Purple includes violet. I'm looking at it right now, and there is no color distortion on the camera, so it's really hard. People say it's purple. Interesting. I would almost associate it's blurple. Blurple. I love that. It's purr. It's purr. So people say it's purple. I think it's a little bit more uh yeah, I guess you say it does have a little bit of purple. Yeah, it is purple. It is lapidus. Oh, we're being very fancy. In that navy. It depends on how the light hits it. I'm using a different kinds of light, and it clearly is not blue because the shirt I'm wearing is blue. Purple sangria. Oh, that's a great name for it. It isn't blue, says Charles. So wow. So there you go. Blue, says Miss Ashley. Bling on it. What? It's called it purple-ish. Purple sangria. I love it. Indigo. Indigo. Navy blue purple. It's amethyst. Lisa. Well, we have really sophisticated viewers. It's morado. Oh my goodness. It's blurple. You folks are cracking me up today. All right, so now let's get back to some CARES Act grants now that we had a little fun to get that taste of that horrible Chuck Schumer stuff out of our mouth. Thank you. Oh, Grandma Ducky's in the room. Well, thank you, Grandma Ducky, for the super chat. So nice. My original OG. Grandma Ducky was in my very first live recording on the beach in Redondo Beach. And I wasn't sure what I was doing. I remember that chat very well because we were talking about EIDL, and everyone was from Texas. It was hysterical. And a lot of the viewers most of the people that were in that live chat are still viewers to this day, which is absolutely incredible. So now let's go to escalated benefits, EIDL, and CARES Act 1 money. What I want you to know for CARES Act 1 money is that we're now learning that there is CARES Act 1 money for rent in places that we never knew it was, which is really encouraging. And there is new CARES Act 1 money being announced everywhere in certain cities. Well, not everywhere, in a lot of new cities. Well, thank you, Grandma Ducky. You come a long way. I really appreciate that. What's important to understand is, for example, Houston, New Mexico, and allegedly New York and also San Diego have announced new rent grants in just the last few days, or stimulus grants. And these are things that are across the state or across the entire city. They didn't have those before. COVID relief here in Maine, $1,000 a month up to 6 months. So there's a new one from Joshua Spence. He just announced something for Maine. So it's important. Finding rent assistance in Broward County is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Now, Cindy's referring, I don't know if Cindy's the person I messaged on DM, but what's important to talk about with the Broward County's example is that Broward County absolutely did have a rent grant in just a week ago. And I used it in this video every single day for Purple Power Live. Broward County, Miami-Dade. I was talking about the same counties in Florida all the time. I was then told that it shut down. So that's an example of a county that was there and then shut down. In Houston, for example, the Houston rent grant was not through the city of Houston, but through a charity. That charity has shut it down, but now the city of Houston is doing something. So you see how things change very quickly. Last night in Purple Power Live, someone came forward. So someone just asked about New Jersey, Donna Burgess. Last night, we got all these questions about New Jersey, and someone came forward with a question about New York. And someone came forward with that they got a rent grant in New York that day by using a state agency that was not the state housing authority. Really shocking. So in New York, it was not the state housing authority, but was a state authority. Georgia, I got a lot of questions about. I'll do a holiday chat. So holiday recipes. I could do that. I've still got a lot of questions for Georgia. We're trying to focus a lot on Georgia because I know a lot of you have been asking about Georgia. But then we turned to Mississippi, and one viewer had a private group in Mississippi that was doing a rent, And then we had Colorado yesterday, I put on the community page, went live with a rent grant and stimulus across the state. So things are coming out really quickly. West Virginia, yes, we got some rent grants in West Virginia. Um, so any questions? Ohio, yes, we have a volunteer that just does Ohio by itself, and for all the other volunteers, they do the entire state. Kentucky is an example. That was a place where one of the viewers got a rent grant in Kentucky. I think it was 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago, and that person found it through a private group, and the volunteers now know about that Kentucky grant. Iowa, yes. Maryland, yes. New York, so that was New York I just spoke about for Patrick Hughes. Any other states that you're asking questions about? Who can get escalated benefits? Anyone that really made over $18,000. Oregon, you had a stimulus check a few weeks ago. Pennsylvania, yes. And Oregon, I think Oregon still has a rent grant as well. Washington, I believe so. So anything on the stimulus? Well, we we did 25 minutes of this video on stimulus. I'll end it in a second. What are the anyone from Northern Maine? We just had someone from Maine talk about a stimulus. I'm taking offense to the lame duck thingy. Grandma Ducky just did a super chat. She's, I don't like this lame duck talking. You're cracking me up. Hilarious. We're voting blue in Georgia. Do they have rent grants for? So someone just asked me, do they have rent grants? Mainers can find information for rent relief on Facebook. Someone just posted that for Maine, you can find rent grants on Facebook. Kentucky does have rent grants, but it's not through it's through a private organization. The volunteers know about. Massachusetts, one viewer got $14,000 a few days ago. Can you post the community page for the rent assistance in Kentucky? No, I can't do cities or states by states, unless it's something that's a breaking news story. But the volunteers know about it because there's just too many states and too many details. Does Rhode Island have anything? I believe so. I was in the middle of answering someone's question and I forgot it. If I didn't finish your question, come back to me. Rent grants in Las Vegas, yes. Clark County announced them just a few days ago. If that's I forgot it's Clark County and where Las Vegas is. Yeah, they have rent grants in Las Vegas, absolutely. What about stimulus checks for California? California has utilities and has a $25,000 business grant. Missouri, utilities, and St. Louis has rent. New York has rent. Retroactive for UI. There's nothing retroactive for anything in these bills, in these memos. Where you at in Minnesota? So we have two people in Minnesota. Shut it down. Southern Indiana. Yeah, I believe, yes, Indiana. Ohio. Is anyone in Ohio here? One of the volunteers is from Ohio. I don't have a lot of research, and thanks to what I come up with the last week and a half. East St. Louis, Illinois. I don't know about East St. Louis, Illinois. Mesa, Arizona, yes. Shut them down, says Lois. Las Vegas, yes, you have a rent assistance in Las Vegas. How about Virginia? Yes, a lot of people got a rent. Alabama, yes. Alabama, I think it's Urban League and Political Action Group. Yes, we got a lot of people who have gotten rent in Alabama. Puerto Rico, Hector de Leon. I believe so. Puerto Rico, I don't know much about. They should have something in Puerto Rico. And Jennifer asked about Puerto Rico as well. We have two viewers in here from Puerto Rico. Houston's confusing. It was confusing. There was nothing for Houston. Then the Catholic Charities was doing the rent grant for Houston. And now Houston's announcing something statewide. Missouri, utilities across the state of Missouri, and St. Louis has rent. Mississippi private organizations doing rent. That was in Purple Power Live last night. Florida, most of the counties, but some of them are ending them very quickly. Another question about Missouri. Missouri, again, utilities, but in St. Louis, they also have rent. Austin, Texas, they should have. Kentucky is doing rent from a private organization. We learned that last night. Learned that 2 nights ago. All right, so join me at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time for Check. I'm going to have big developments on Check. Stay with check and then join me right after on check with a purple, because purple will go through more of your questions right now about what about Kentucky, what about Missouri, what about those things. I'll be going over a lot of those nuances of the grants in purple, and then join me for being a Mitch, in which I break down really what's going to happen with this now less than a 10-day window to get this. Oh, thank you, Grandma Duck, again. This less than a 10-day window to get this CR done. A lot of great questions, and thank you for joining me. 1,000 people in the room, incredible. And hello is David Ortiz from an OG as well. Grandma Ducky, OG, and a lot of other OGs in the room. Really exciting. See you at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. That's 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and save LA for more.